Julius Maada Bio and ECOWAS, the real colonizers of Africa? In the complex web of African politics, two names often spark fierce debates about neocolonialism and sovereignty: Julius Maada Bio, the President of Sierra Leone, and the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS. While Africa continues to wrestle with its post-colonial identity, many observers argue that new forms of colonization have emerged, often cloaked in the language of democracy, security, and economic integration. Together, Julius Maada Bio and ECOWAS are increasingly seen by critics as prime examples of this modern, subtle colonization, acting not in the interests of African people, but in favor of foreign powers and entrenched elites. Julius Maada Bio came to power in Sierra Leone promising reforms, development, and a fight against corruption. However, his administration has been accused of authoritarianism, political suppression, and human rights violations. Bio's government has faced allegations of election rigging, silencing of opposition voices, and violent crackdowns on protests. His handling of dissent has drawn condemnation from both local activists and international observers, but Bayo has largely been shielded from serious consequences by ECOWAS, an organization that paradoxically claims to uphold democracy and stability. Please like and subscribe to keep this channel alive. ECOWAS, originally established to promote regional cooperation and economic integration, has morphed into what many now call Africa's internal colonizer. Its selective interventions in West African politics have revealed deep contradictions within its mission. While the organization has remained silent or toothless in the face of electoral manipulation, political violence, and constitutional abuse in certain member states including Sierra Leone under Bayo, it has shown overwhelming aggression toward nations where military coups have challenged pro-Western regimes, such as Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, and Guinea. ECOWAS swiftly imposes sanctions and threatens military force in these instances, not necessarily out of concern for democracy, but seemingly to protect Western economic and geopolitical interests. Many critics argue that ECOWAS operates as a puppet for external forces, particularly France, the United States, and international financial institutions like the IMF and World Bank. The organization's policies often align with the interests of these foreign actors, focusing on maintaining stability for business and investment, even at the cost of popular sovereignty and human rights. In Sierra Leone, for example, Maada Bio's tightening grip on power has been met with little resistance from ECOWAS, as his administration remains aligned with foreign-backed agendas and global lenders. ECOWAS's interventions or lack thereof often expose its role as a political gatekeeper for neocolonialism. In countries like Mali and Burkina Faso, where governments have expelled French troops, rejected Western economic dictates, and sought new alliances with non-Western powers, ECOWAS reacts with fury. The swift sanctions, border closures, and threats of military intervention serve as a warning to any African leader contemplating independence from Western-dominated systems. Yet, in cases where leaders suppress their populations while remaining loyal to foreign interests, ECOWAS remains conspicuously quiet. Julius Maada Bio's close relationship with ECOWAS further symbolizes this dynamic. Bayo, a former military ruler himself, has skillfully positioned his regime within ECOWAS's safe zone by maintaining strong ties to external donors and aligning Sierra Leone's economic policies with global financial expectations. This alliance ensures that Bayo faces minimal pressure for his government's democratic shortcomings and human rights abuses. Critics argue that this relationship makes Bayo not only an internal authoritarian but also a willing agent of neocolonialism, helping to sustain the exploitative system that keeps African nations politically weak and economically dependent. Please like and subscribe to keep this channel alive. For many Africans, the combination of leaders like Bayo and organizations like ECOWAS represents the face of modern colonization. It is no longer European armies that march across African soil, but rather African soldiers and politicians enforcing rules dictated by external powers. The tools of this new colonization include economic sanctions, trade deals, manipulated elections, and regional military threats, all wrapped in the language of democracy and regional unity. As popular frustration grows across West Africa, many young people, activists, and political movements are rejecting both ECOWAS and leaders like Bayo. They are demanding a new political order built on true sovereignty, economic independence, and regional cooperation that serves African interests, not those of foreign governments or multinational corporations. The question remains whether Africa can break free from this cycle of internalized colonization. But one thing is clear: Julius Maada Bio and ECOWAS stand at the center of this controversy, accused by many of being the new colonizers African faces enforcing foreign control. Until there is a fundamental shift in African politics, these accusations will continue to resonate across the continent.